Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, I'm Caleb DeLoach. She's Cody Hinkebine, and unfortunately, this past week we kind of ran back into the bad weather bug, lost out on a lot of games here the last couple weeks of the regular season for the bigger schools in this Cape Jackson area, but we got to see a few games, Cody. It was a slow week, though, however, for us.
Yeah, so you look at last week, a little bit of games being rescheduled for this coming week makes for some busy week for some of the bigger class schools. Class 1, 2, and 3 get into their district tournament play, so some of those games not able to be rescheduled, but had a lot of the normal last week of the regular season, senior nights, things like that this week. So getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, we're about there, like you said. The small schools 1, 2, and 3 start playoffs. I believe tomorrow, even. Yeah, they'll be playing games tomorrow, and then, or today if you're watching this on Monday, 24th, and then. All the big schools got one more week of regular season play, but for this past week, like we mentioned, there were games, a couple games Monday, none really in the Cape Jackson area. Well, Delta beat Bernie, which I thought was a good win, and also Charleston beat Leopold. Relatively close, 12-point game, but not too surprising there. And then snow happened. We got 6, 7, 8, 10 inches of snow, depending on where you're at. And there was no games until pretty much Fridays, at least as far as like Cape and Jackson go. Lost out on games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But I guess we can start. Well, we'll start with Cape game. They played Gateway Legacy, and that was Cape Central's senior night. So there are a pretty good class or a decent class of seniors playing their last game over at Cape Central, and they were led in scoring. They did win over Gateway. I don't know if I mentioned that, 48-32. So a nice win for them. They did what they have been doing all season, which is playing really, really, at least the back half of the season, playing really good defense. Without Tyshandre Edwards, that's got to be the recipe for success for them. But yeah, a good-sized senior class. Mateo Rivers, Marquee Mills, obviously two of their leading scorers, both graduating as seniors, along with Hayden Harris, Jefferson Walling, Landry McFerrin, and Ethan Musgrave. McFerrin's another guy who's been playing quite a bit more, especially in the absence of Edwards. So he's played well in his extended role he's had of late. And they won that game 48-32. Gateway is a decent team. They hover around 500. They played Sikeston at Sikeston earlier in the year. It's kind of the one familiar opponent. They lost by 20 in that game. They like to play slower, too. So it's a little bit lower scoring isn't too surprising. But yeah, Cape holding a team to 32 points, they've done, that relatively pretty well this back half of the season. Obviously, Sikeston being the one, difference there, or at least since they've played teams around here. They held New Madrid to 35. They held Bluff to 35. They held Jackson to 42. Notre Dame to 33. Dexter to 36. So Cape Central's really been locked in on defense the back half of the season. But for them, it's kind of just what can we find and how can we, win these ball games without Tyshandre Edwards.
Yeah, been a tough month of February for Cape Central, obviously with the injury. They're 16-7 now, but when you look at who they've played this month, CBC, Principia, Sikeston, played some really good teams. So going 500 in February, getting into a tough district. Right. We talked about Farmington and Sikeston probably going to be those top 2 seeds. So will be a tough week for them. They have the game at Kennett, and then you get into districts the week after.
Yep. So closing in on the end here, and then the game that Cody and I were at, we do. Those of you that don't know, we do Jackson games on the radio over at 104.7 The Bridge, and Jackson pretty much got smoked in that game. It was 81-58. Sikeston, it was a close game for about the first quarter and a half maybe, and then Sikeston went on a big run to really stretch out the lead before halftime. Jackson kind of tightened it a little bit at the beginning of the third quarter, but then Sikeston really poured it on the middle through end of that third quarter and really just coasted in that fourth quarter. It got a little up and down the fourth quarter. I think Jackson technically outscored them in the fourth quarter, but it was a pretty solid victory for Sikeston. Pretty open and shut.
Yeah, lopsided win. Couple of Sikeston's losses this season we had talked about earlier. A little surprising, but very good team, can score. Jackson gives up 50 points a game this year, so pretty good on defense. Normally they give up 81 to Sikeston. Tough defensive night for them, and you're playing at Sikeston on their senior night, so got to lock it back in here as Jackson has obviously big games this week.
Yeah, and, tough loss. I would say personally I thought it would be a little bit closer. I definitely thought Sikeston would win, but I was guesstimating somewhere in maybe the 12 to 18 point range. I don't know what you were thinking, Cody, but it being close to 30 points there at the end of the third quarter was kind of surprising.
Yeah, and Jackson with the never give up attitude cuts it down to, I believe, 16 there in the fourth. Sikeston goes on a run, balloons it back up, but 23-point win for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and like you said, they got to bounce back. It's tough to lose like that at the end of the season here going into districts, but it's not easy here closing out for Jackson. They have a pretty good week coming up, and then getting into a tough Class 6 District 1. In that game, I know P.J. Farmer led Sikeston with 23. I think Tristan Wiggins had 21. Trey Sadler played really well, getting a lot of lobs, getting out in transition, rebounded well, defended around the rim pretty well. And then over on the Jackson side, Cole Deck had 29 points, just keeping his high watermark going this season. He's been on a real tear, especially the last month or so. He's been balling out. And then second for scoring for Jackson was John Ernst. He had 13. The freshman did a good job in the second half. All 13 of those points came in the second half. We talked about it on the broadcast. It felt like it took him a minute to kind of get used to playing against somebody inside taller than him. Maybe for, like I said on the broadcast, the tallest person he's maybe ever seen on the basketball court going against him. So he was a little hesitant early, but he definitely felt like he got his confidence in the second half. And he's a guy that, Jackson's going to need to play well, score around the basket on this stretch run.
Yeah, a little passive. We mentioned it in the broadcast, but would have liked to seen him been a little more aggressive. A couple turnovers there early in the game. But then in the second half, you mentioned a lot better boxing out, had a block, steal, transition, just really played a lot better in the second half.
And then I guess we can move on to Saturday. There was a couple of small school games that were of note. Woodland kind of got revenge, I guess you can say, and beat Puxico 77-67. So congrats to the Cardinals as they head in as the 1 seed in Class 3, District 2. Probably going to be seeing Scott City in their district championship game. So they're playing well here to close it out. And then here in Cape, there's another senior night. It was Notre Dame hosting St. Francis Borgia. And it was kind of a mixed bag on what to think going into the game. I thought it could be competitive. It is a Borgia team that did beat Sikeston earlier in the year. But I was not, the fact that they beat Sikeston was crazy to me because I wasn't super impressed what I saw at Borgia early in the season. I mean, they had a good record. I think they were 16-6 coming into this game. But nonetheless, I thought it was a game that, Notre Dame could at least be competitive in. And they did more than just compete. They played really well. It was a back-and-forth ball game. They clawed their way back into it, came back late in the ball game and tied it, went to overtime. And I watched the overtime of the game, and it was brutal. Notre Dame played well. I remember Borgia had the ball. Logan Londaway got a steal, hit a couple free throws, and then to take a lead. And then St. Francis Borgia went down. A guy off the bench hit a 3 at the buzzer to win it. And Notre Dame lost on their senior night, but, nothing to hang your head about. A Borgia team that's looked, they're 18-6. Very, very good team, very consistently, very good program. So can't hang your head, and I'll go ahead and read off the names. This is maybe the biggest senior class on a basketball team I've ever seen in my life at Notre Dame. So a lot of guys are going to be losing the bulk of the contributions to the varsity are going to be graduating. A guy who has had a lot of injury issues, not playing, was Will Henry Stewart as a senior. You have Hayden Steinley. You have Trenton Schumacher, Logan Londaway, Colton Johnson, Brody Harden, Zach Eftink, Brett Dohan, Ryan Boswell, and Hunter Bonham. So like I said, the vast majority of the varsity contributors Obviously the standouts you talk about, well, like Logan Londaway has been a starter at point guard for several years for them now. Schumacher's been a starter on the wing for them. And then obviously the big man inside, Brett Dohan, over 1,000 points in his career. And same with Colton Johnson, who's broke a lot of records shooting the ball for Notre Dame. He's over 1,000 points. He's their all-time leader in threes. He broke the single game 3-point record a couple weeks ago against Malden. He hit 10 in a game. So a lot of very, very good players that have been playing on the varsity for a long time. Going to be moving on. Some of them playing at the next level, and a lot of them just going on to school and whatnot. So it'll be interesting next year, Cody. A whole new look for Notre Dame. Not much coming back as far as varsity goes.
Yeah, but like you said, and like we've said in past weeks, nothing to hang your head about. Notre Dame 500 on the year, but you have a big week here. You have Dexter, Farmington. So a winnable district, as we've talked about. You're coaching to get to March, and that's no different here for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and you said, a very winnable district. It is. You look at the records, a very even district. A lot of teams just hanging around 500. A couple of SEMO conference teams. Kennett's in there, Dexter's in there. And, they've already beaten Kennett pretty big at home. And so they have, the seeding's not out for that, right?
Correct. Haven't yet. I believe that's at Fredericktown, which is in the district. So
it'll be at Fredericktown. And so they have Dexter coming up. I don't know if they'll be able to get that game in before they seed. If so, that will probably determine who gets the 1 seed in the district.
Yeah, Fredericktown at 13 and 10. So
they're yeah. What a crazy district. You got Perryville, Dexter, Kennett, Notre Dame, Fredericktown, all like right there with 10 to 13 wins each. Very, very
first game of the year. I think it was the first game of the year, yeah. Early in the season, Notre Dame beat Fredericktown pretty handily. So
okay, yeah. So I would have guessed Notre Dame's going to be the 1 seed in that district then. So yeah, that obviously what they have to look forward to. You play a good team in Borgia close, just kind of use that and propel forward and see if they're able to have a good week to close out the season here. And that pretty much does it for the week. Like I said, short week on the boys' side. Not a lot of games being played. And so it's pretty much just Friday, Saturday when we got all the games in. And we can take a look over on the girls' side for this past week. Starting Monday, Jackson went over to Saxony. A little bit Battle of Jackson, I guess you can say. Battle of, what was that, Highway 61 between the two schools. Jackson blew out Saxony. Not a surprise. Jackson, now 19-1. Saxony's been below 500 most of the season. And the Indians won that one 61-27. It's been a lot of the same names and faces playing really well for the Indians. Addison Henderson led them with 16. Kate Deck had 14. Cameron Alsdorf had 12. So pretty even scoring across the board for the Indians. They jumped out early. The press really got to Saxony early in that ball game, and they pretty much took control and coasted down through the finish line. I know I saw an interview, or the post-game interview, Coach Fulton was not happy about maybe the effort at times during the ball game, kind of playing sloppy at times with the big win, but it kind of happens in some of the blowouts like that. And then another team that's been playing really well, Cape Central, hosted Woodland, got a win over the Woodland Cardinals. Woodland is a smaller classification, but it doesn't always translate the same way. And Woodland's a good team, and I was surprised that Cape Central came away with a win, and they won that one 54-48. And they've been playing well. It's something I mentioned in the past. They're going to be hosting their district, and so they might be able to make some noise potentially. They've had good wins. They beat a decent Kennett team. They beat Dexter. They beat Woodland, and so they've had a pretty good stretch here the last few weeks. And then that pretty much does it for Monday. And then we had all the snow and all the fun stuff. So we had a bunch of games get moved, some games get postponed until Friday. We had a few games. Cody and I got to see the end of Cape at Sikeston. That was a close ball game. Sikeston won that 68-64. Good game. Like I said, it was close at the very end. Sikeston hit a couple shots. And then Notre Dame went to Corhezu, who is in the same district, Class 6, District 1 with Jackson and Notre Dame. Yep. And Corhezu won that one big, 55-29. So kind of we're seeding out the tournament here that on Friday and Saturday this past week. So You expect Notre Dame to slide in maybe at the 3 spot, Correzu to be ahead of them. And then Saturday, Correzu hosted Jackson, and Jackson won that game 66-63 in double overtime. A great game. I went back. I did not see it live when it happened, and so I went back and watched it. It was a pretty tough game. I was impressed throughout the fact that Jackson was able to win. It was tough early. Jackson trailed after 1 by 5, and then Correzu stretched it out to 11 at halftime. They were winning 32-21. And the only reason it was, at 11 was because right before the halftime buzzer, Kate Deck got fouled shooting a 3. She made 2 of those free throws. But then in the second half, Jackson's pressure really started to, it felt like, take a toll on Correzu. They started making a lot of bad passes, turning it over. And Correzu also, they pressed full court, so it was a very up and down ball game, a little sloppy at times. And Jackson cut it down to 4 going into the third quarter. And then back at the end of it, the back half of the game at least, it was kind of the Kate Deck, Cameron Alsdorf show. They were just hitting big shots left and right. And then it happened before halftime. And the same thing happened again to close out the game. Jackson inbounded in the backcourt, trailing by 3 with 6 seconds left. They get it into Kate Deck. She goes up the right side, puts up a very tough shot. She gets clobbered on the 3. They call the foul essentially as time expired. And as a 9th grader, went to the line and went 3 for 3 to tie it up, send it to overtime. And then with 1 overtime was not enough. After 1 overtime, both teams scored 6 points in the overtime. Cameron Alsdorf this time, she made 2 free throws to tie it with 21 seconds. And then in the second overtime, the Indians made enough plays. Correzu came out, made a 3 on their first possession, but then Lauren Dory, another freshman, made a 3 to tie it immediately. Cameron Alsdorf fouled out with 2 minutes to go, and so I was kind of concerned at that point. I didn't know how it would go, and then the young girls once again stepped up, made free throws down the stretch. It was Berger and Deck. They went 4 for 4, 2 for 2 each with in the last 30 seconds to close it out and win 66-63 in a tough road environment. They played in like the smallest gym I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what happened to their actual varsity gym. Something else might have been going on in there. But big win on the road at Correzu, good team, and a district win. So presumably Jackson will now be the 1 seed, Correzu the 2, and Notre Dame the 3. So a big, big game for the Indians. Coming away with that win, and just kind of the final totals. Cameron Alsdorf had 23. She was phenomenal. Kate Deck had 17. Addison Henderson had 9. She also fouled out, I believe at the end of regulation. And then Rachel Berger had 8 in that one. So great game, fun to watch, up and down. And the Indians, they just, Cody, they just keep winning ball games. Like, they've been incredible this last stretch of the season. Like, you have their schedule pulled up. Like, they beat a lot of good teams, and they haven't lost in a long time.
Yeah, find a way to win. That's kind of their motto. You mentioned haven't lost in the calendar year since St. Vincent. Their only blemish of the season. And, yeah, some teams maybe you wouldn't expect them to beat, but some teams that they may see if they get out of their district, make a playoff run.
Yeah, so they've a great season so far, and I guess we can stay with it. They have a very, very busy week coming up. I guess we can just go straight. What's just Jackson's schedule for this next week? I know they have a ton of games.
Yeah, not the only girls team that has a busy week. I think they have 3. Notre Dame has 4. A lot of games this week, but you look at Jackson, Monday, Dexter, Wednesday, Sikeston, Friday, Hazelwood West. So,
and all 3 of those are at home. Dexter and Sikeston, both conference games. Games I think Jackson should definitely be the favorite in. They should win. And then Hazelwood West, I took a peek at them. They're very interesting. They have kind of similar to Jackson. They have 3 girls. Their 3 leading scorers are all freshmen. One of them is a 6'3" center, and their best player is 5'11", plays out on the wing. She averages like 20 points a game. So it'll be a tough matchup. It will not be an easy ball game. And the Indians, like you said, have kept finding ways to win. It's been a lot of close games at times, but they keep winning. And so I I don't have a reason to doubt that they'll drop a game here at home, but Hazelwood West could be a very, very tough game, very competitive game for sure. And like you said, Notre Dame, they have a lot of games here to close out the season, and including a makeup game against Jackson that still looks like it's going to happen. It's scheduled for the 3rd of March. But please, weather, don't be crazy again. I saw something on Facebook where it's like, oh, we might get more snow March 1st. I'm like, please no. Yeah, looking at Notre Dame, they have a tough schedule. They play they just played at Corhezu, who's 15-7. They play at Park Hill Central, coming off of a state title run. They're 16-5. They play at Lutheran St. Charles, who's 18-4, who is I think they're the number 4 team in Class 6. And they have one girl individually who is, I want to say she's going to Kansas State. She had offers everywhere, and she's incredible. And then they play at Farmington. So a very, very busy stretch there. And then they come back home and play St. Pius the 10th, who's the only team below 500 they play here to close out the season. Tough stretch. Definitely you can say we're getting prepared for the postseason this week if you're Notre Dame. But, you have to look at this in total honesty from 30,000 feet here. They scheduled this schedule with the thought that they were going to have 3 Division I athletes on their team. Kate Rubel and Bree Rubel and Nevaeh Lucius were all Notre Dame Bulldogs at the time when the schedule got made. That's why you see some of these big-time state-ranked teams like Lutheran St. Charles, Park Hills, Central. They played in the Nixa tournament against some crazy competition like Nixa. They played up at the Visitation Christmas tournament that's loaded every year. So I can say that they definitely scheduled this with the thought that they had, maybe the 3 best players in all of Southeast Missouri on their team. That did not work out that way. And so they're playing a very, very brutal schedule here to close out the season.
Yeah, so Notre Dame going to have 4 games in 5 days this week, travel over 500 miles probably, and it's a pretty tough week for Notre Dame girls. But, like you said, all to get ready for Class 6, very tough District 1.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Cape, to my knowledge, is out. They're done with regular season game. That game at Sikeston is the last one on the schedule for them. So their regular season's wrapped up, and we'll just wait to see where they sit in the district seeding time. And then Saxony girls, they have 2 games currently on the schedule that got made up from this past week. They're going to be going to North County on Tuesday, the 25th, and on the 27th, they come back home. They host a very good Potosi team who's 18-4. So a very tough end here to the regular season for the Crusaders. So a lot of good ball games on the girls' side coming up this week. A very, very, very busy week for a lot of teams. And then, Cody, what's kind of the boys' side look like?
Yeah, you flip back over to kind of the boys' schedules. Get it started Monday. A couple of notable games around here. Saxony's at Greenville. Start their Class 3. First round going to be a tough district for obviously the boys there. New Madrid County Central is at Kelly. Kelly Benton is the host for their district. Charleston, potential meeting there. District 3, as you look down, look to kind of get to their district championship, but Charleston's at Advance. Some other notable games as you look throughout Monday. Bernie's Orion in the Class 2 District 3. But as we kind of get closer to home here, fast forward to Tuesday, not district game, still back to the regular season for the Class 4, 5, 6 schools. Jackson, very big game, will be a district game for them at home. Last home game for Jackson regular season. They host Seckman in what's sure to be a pretty good ball game. We were looking through Seckman's schedule. Some tough schedule for them here of late, but traveling down to Jackson. They've been kind of an up and down team, if you will. But yeah, should be interesting. I look for a big crowd for Jackson's last home game.
Yeah, like you said, last home game. I mean, you could say theoretically Jackson could host a game in the future if they get far out of districts, but nothing guaranteed at this point, especially playing in Class 6. So, yeah, if you are a Jackson fan or a fan of basketball in the area, on that Tuesday, you have a decent slate going on there. Cape is at Kennett, so they'll be out of town. Notre Dame will be hosting Dexter. If I had to say the Jackson-Seckman game's most compelling, most interesting in my opinion, I would definitely come check that ball game out. Cold Deck closing out last home game potentially on a crazy tear, averaging 30-something points a game the last month of the season. And the Indians looking to get back in the win column, coming off of a big loss to Sikeston. I'd be curious to see how they respond. Seckman has played well. They're much improved from last season. They were around 500, maybe a little bit below. And they graduated, their best player, a kid named Colin Diebold. He kind of did what Cold Deck does this season, put up 20-some points a game. He was a very, very good player. But it feels like once he was kind of out of the roster now, everybody else has kind of elevated their game. They got a lot more even team around him. So it'd be a good game, good test. Jackson, according, I think, to Misha Records, has never lost to Seckman. So we'll see if they're able to keep that stretch going. They've played in the regular season the last couple of years. So I would definitely put Jackson as a favorite, but Seckman will come in fired up, looking to maybe help their district seeding out. And like I mentioned, Cape is at Kennett. That should be Cape's last regular season game. It's a game that Cape should win, maybe. It'll be tough going on the road to Kennett. That's a very long drive down there. And Kennett's not bad. They have a kid named Dyson Watson who's a 25-plus point per game scorer. And they have good shooters around him. And if those guys are hitting shots, they're tough to beat. I saw it firsthand. Jackson went down to Kennett, barely got out of there with a win. And so it'll be a tough matchup. I think Cape is talented enough and definitely good enough on the defensive end to beat Kennett down there at their place. And then Notre Dame will be hosting Dexter, like we talked about earlier. District implications there. I'm not sure, once again, if they're going to be seeding before that game happens or after that game happens. I have to assume before. But it'll be interesting to see. It's a team, it could be a preview of the district championship game even. We have no idea. So it'll be a interesting ball game. Dexter, hovering around 500 as well, like Notre Dame. They have a solid team. We did a game down there earlier this year between Jackson and Dexter. A lot of guys do a lot of the same things. They have, a good point guard, and Devin Turnbow likes to get downhill. They have a lot of shooters on the outside. They have a young big man who stands about 6'5", who's pretty solid, Ibrahim around the rim. So not a bad team at all. And then, Wednesday, Cody, interesting game for Notre Dame. They'll be hosting a very, very good Farmington team.
Yeah, you turn around, quick turnaround for them back-to-back nights. But both of them are at least at home, Dexter and Farmington. But, yeah, Farmington listed as 21-2, presumably Class 5, District 1 seed. But, yeah, to get them ready for district play. Obviously, Notre Dame's last regular season game, but look to maybe host down the road also. Should be a packed house.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in the Jackson Cape area, you're probably familiar with Farmington, but if you haven't seen them, good opportunity to see Farmington again in Cape Girardeau.
Yeah, they're a good squad. It'll be a fun game. Notre Dame, coming off of a near victory over Borgia, they have a chance to match up with them, make things difficult. They match up size-wise pretty well across the board. Farmington does have one big kid. SA is more perimeter-oriented, though. He does score around the rim, but he's a good shooter. Their point guard is good. Shoppert kid, he's very talented. I saw he broke their school record for assist in a season, and so they're a good team. And, they're going to be the 1 seed in Class 5 District 1, like you said, Cody. So they didn't get there easily, that's for sure. They beat Cape, beat Sikeston, so they're a good team. And something we had kind of alluded to, Class 1, 2, and 3, their districts are going to be going on the same time that the bigger schools are playing games. And so Wednesday will be the semifinal rounds in Class 1, 2, and 3 in districts. And then their championship night will be Friday the 28th. And that will be interesting, definitely. There's going to be some good games. You've got potential matchups of like Puxico maybe taking on Charleston in a district title game. I know we talked about a few times Woodland and Scott City might be seeing each other. Could be getting like a Crothersville East Prairie championship game. So a lot of good games. If you're wanting to get out, maybe watch some basketball. There's going to be a lot of very, very good basketball going on in the smaller classes in districts. On the bigger school side, I guess another interesting game, about 30 minutes down the road from Cape Jackson, Sikeston will be hosting Father Tolton, who beat Sikeston at the end of the season last year. I believe Father Tolton's still led by a kid named Aaron Rowe that's going to Mizzou. So they're a talented team. So that'll be a good ball game on Thursday night. And then Friday, going on the road, Jackson plays at Lutheran St. Charles, who is not great. They're below 500, but it will be an earlier tip-off. Isn't that right, Cody?
Yeah, 4:30 game. So
it'll be different. It might throw people out of their routine a little bit. Might see a slow start out of Jackson. Hopefully not, but you might see a slow start. It wouldn't surprise me, at least, as far as that goes. Lutheran St. Charles, like I said, they've been below 500 pretty consistently throughout the year. Let me pull it up. I think they're 5-12 or something like that. So they taking a lot of losses. Not many teams looking. Nobody. I don't think they played anybody that Jackson has also played. So it'll be an interesting game. That they actually host or they play at Poplar Bluff the night before Jackson. So they have a tired Lutheran St. Charles team potentially for the Jackson game, and then that will be nearly. I believe that will wrap it up for all of our Cape area teams then in the bigger schools. Isn't that right? And the regular season will be done then after this week.
Yeah. As you look at the playoffs for the districts for the smaller schools, most all of those district championships are the 28th, that Friday. I believe Charleston is the 2 seed, Puxico the 1. That championship would be at Bloomfield. If you're looking at going to these games, I think Scott City, Woodland, the 1-2, theirs is at Greenville. So if you're looking at going to that one next Friday.
A little bit of a trek.
A little bit of a trek out to Greenville for that district championship. But yeah, as you mentioned, class 4, 5, 6, we should hear the brackets anytime. If you're looking ahead, the smaller school sectionals, most of those are played March 3rd. So that's when those sectional games are going to be if they do win their district. So for the small schools, and then we look forward to, as you said, the bigger schools last week of the regular season.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Yeah, so if you are in the Cape Jackson area, Kelly, like you mentioned earlier, will be hosting the Class 3 District 1. Some interesting teams in there, like Crothersville, played Jackson close. New Madrid, East Prairie is very good. Twin Rivers is in there, a pretty solid team. So some interesting games going on just down the road over at Kelly High School. So should be a good time. As of recording here, there's no or at least Class 4, 5, and 6 on the boys' side are not out in District 1s. Actually, on the girls' side, the district is out for the Saxony Lutheran girls. They will be the 5th seed out of 5 teams in their district. A team that Jackson and others have played, Notre Dame hosted, Doniphan is the 1 seed there. Fredericktown's the 2. Dexter is the 3. And then Kennett and Saxony will be playing in the first round. So interesting ball game. That will be down at Kennett. So good luck if you're from Fredericktown. That's a long drive. They will be making that trip down to Kennett, and that'll be interesting. I would definitely not give Saxony the edge playing Kennett at home. Doniphan should beat Kennett, but nonetheless, Doniphan's very, very good. They're a very good team. They beat Notre Dame. Jackson played them close, came away with a close victory at the end of regulation. I think that'll be an interesting girls' district, though, for sure. Fredericktown, 15-9. So, yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. And then, like we said, nothing on the boys' side as of yet.
So alternatively, on these district championships for the girls, as you look down through them, most of them March 1st. So that's Saturday is most of all of these girls' championships in Class 1, 2, and 3. And then they're a day behind the boys. So if they were to play sectionals March 4th, so sectionals for the boys the following Monday, sectionals for the girls on Tuesday.
And then if you're trying to at least get it in your calendar We don't know the seed yet necessarily, the game, like the game time.
Right.
But looks like for classes 5 and 6, some of the ones that are seeded already, those games we played March 5th will be the first round, March 7th will be the semifinals, and March 10th should be the championship round. And looks like I'm looking at Class 6 District 3 as just my reference here. This game start at 5 and then 7. So, yep, something to keep your eye on, check out on. If you are a Cape fan, maybe a Sikeston or Farmington supporter for whatever reason listening to the show. If you're looking over at Class 5 District 1, that is already, or Class 5 District 2, sorry, that's already seeded. Those games will be played at Vianney. But Webster Groves is the 1, Vianney's the 2, St. Mary's Southside is the 3. So a very, very tough district over there in District 2. Just something to keep an eye on. Maybe if you are, Cape fan or Sikeston fan, whatever. Definitely something to watch out for, that district over there, see who comes out. Now, Webster Groves, we've seen very good. Vianney has the kid who's like the leading scorer in the entire state. Luke Walsh averages 34 points a game. So, something to keep an eye on over there on that side. Cody, you have any other closing thoughts on the basketball side of things?
I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, let's see. Outside of that, other things going on. I know girls swimming just wrapped up state championships. I saw Ava Walters from Jackson got third. I know that. And then the Cape Central team as a whole got third. There was only 5 athletes competing. So that's pretty impressive. And then wrestling has started, or they're going to be starting state soon. They just finished up their district wrestling meets, and I saw that Kaylee Milam is going to be the lone girl representative for the Indians. She won her weight class. She's been having an insane year. Like, she won the conference tournament, pinned every opponent she had. I saw she won the championship in that. I think in 11 seconds she pinned her opponent. So she has had a phenomenal season, and as I've been stalling here, I found all the other places here. Over on the boys' side, a guy that Cody and I have seen a few times play football, Bryson Wessel, also the starting left tackle for the Indians. He was the lone champion on the boys' side. For those that don't know, first, second, third, and fourth place in districts, you advance to the state meet. So Bryson Wessel was a champion. Second place, wrestlers Mitchell Baker got second, Cade King got second, and Joa Moore all got second in their weight classes. I know Moore and King, I believe, won SEMO Conference championships in their weight classes. Grady Rice got third in his weight class, and then a couple of guys got fourth. That is Gannon Rice and Charlie Eifert. So 8 Indians making the trip to state. Those are the only team I have the results on I saw online anywhere. So 8 Indians making the trip. Should be interesting. Keep an eye out on. Definitely something to watch out for. I want to say it's Flow Sports holds like all the wrestling results. So if you want to check those out, go find them there. But yeah, I think that just about does it for me. Cody, you said you're good. Nothing else here. So, we're here. Big schools got this last week to finish out the regular season strong. Small schools, best of luck. Everybody just rooting for, class 1, 2, 3 schools. Saxony will be getting started over at Greenville, taking on Greenville at Greenville in the first round game in their district. Everybody else should be a good time. A lot of really, really good small school basketball coming up. I know if you want to watch any of these state games, I think they're all going to be on Misha TV. You got to pay for it. It stinks, I know, but you got to pay for it. And yeah, check it out there. Go get out to the gyms. Small school basketball is a lot of fun in some of these smaller environments. So
a little bit early, but we're 1 month from baseball season already. So
yeah, baseball's coming up. Spring sports are coming up. Hopefully spring weather is also coming up soon. Yeah, that just about does it for us. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. If you want to hear more of Cody and I, we'll be doing Jackson games closing out the season over on 104.7 The Bridge. I know Ryan Winkler will be doing all the Cape games on Cape Central Sports on YouTube. He's also on 95.7 Cape Radio. Rusty Hendricks does games on 960 KZIM for Notre Dame, and they stream their games at home as well. So a lot of options, a lot of ways to watch games around the area. Definitely check them out. See some of these great teams before they end their season. But for the both of us, thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.